What is that core thing that you offer that members depend on and really can't get anywhere else? And that's your center of gravity, or at least probably the most important part of it.
Hey, it's Tony Veroeven, and I'm here with Derek Rector. We are from Diamax, and we make a little thing called Milieu. Let's get right into it. We want to talk about online communities and associations, and we want to talk about something we call gravity principles. And these are part of the principles of communities and how communities work. A lot of associations have online communities, they've got directories, they've got some sort of career hub. And some of them are successful and some of them are not. Some of them are launched with great fanfare, and then other ones slowly die a slow death over weeks or months or years. We want to prevent that. We want vibrant communities. We want people engaging around great content. So I brought Derek on here today because in my experience, I've run some of these communities. I've built some of these communities. And, let's talk a little bit about why some of these communities work and why I was successful, and maybe why sometimes, some of these didn't work out so well. So Derek, you introduced me to the concept of gravity, and you didn't invent gravity, right?
I wish I could say I did.
Okay. You did not invent gravity. However, you introduced me to the principle of gravity when it comes to associations and communities and people are centered around a topic. So I wanted you to help introduce us to the gravity principle. It has to do with gravity, it has a purpose, it has to do with pull. Help us understand it.
Thanks, Tony. The concept of gravity is really, really simple once you see it in action. Community forms where people find the things that they need to get their job done, to get through their lives. When you try to put community somewhere else off to the side, it doesn't work very well. In the real world, when you look at actual communities, they naturally form where the resources are, right? And so what we're really doing is saying what works in the real world will also work digitally. If you look at the way that actual towns form, they form where there's water, right? A village forms where there's water, where there's food, where there's shelter, where there's security. What we're basically saying is, if you scale that up and you look at a city, the old part of the city is usually at the port where resources are exchanged. The churches and the schools and the houses are in the old part of the city are there. The railroad comes along and the whole town center moves to where the railroad is, because that's where the resources are. That's where the things are that people need. And now communities are moving again to the highway interchange, right? It's where the hotel is. My hometown, they're building a hockey rink at the highway interchange because that's where the resources are, right? So in the real world, community forms naturally without even trying where the things are that people need. It's the same idea for a digital community. Community forms in the places where you find the things that you need. So the question is, what are those things? What is an association providing that nobody else can provide?
Okay, so this is a great transition, a great segue here. So my question is, you wrote an article. You're watching this video that was embedded in an article that Derek wrote called "The Gravity Principle," and so you say in the article that many online communities, when they start in the wrong place, right?
Yeah.
What do you mean? Tell me why do some communities either fail or just get it wrong?
The biggest issue is that the community is not tied to anything that anybody in the industry actually needs, right? So if the association produces a buyer's guide that everybody relies on, the community is not there, it's somewhere else, right? If they produce some sort of a standards manual that everybody needs, the community is somewhere else. If the association is a critical source of training and accreditation, the community is typically somewhere other than where those courses are occurring, right? And so community fails when it is positioned away from the things that people are already coming to the association for. You can kind of make it seem like it's succeeding for a while, right? We've all done this. We're using badges, we're using incentives, we're marketing really hard. We've got a lot of push notifications going out trying to draw people in. But the community just never seems to really take off, right? And that's because it's unnatural for people to just show up in some random place away from the things that they need to do their work and just start talking. It's like, just think about the real world. It just doesn't happen, right?
So is it a problem of poor design, or is it something deeper, more
Okay.
strategic?
Yeah, great question. Um, a little bit both, right? So from a design perspective, it's not enough just to turn on discussions and allow people to post, you know, questions and people to comment. You need to craft your community features in a way that is specific to the type of resource or tool that is that center of gravity. So a good example, we have a very, very successful community called EngineerGirl. It's one of the top STEM websites in the United States that targets middle school girls. And it introduces them to people that they can relate to, women that are engineers. And it allows them to ask questions, and the engineers provide answers. The entire community is built around a sort of Quora-style question and answer format. Post a question, and you get an answer from one engineer, then another, then another, then another. They all pile on their answers, right? If we had just simply set up forums, it wouldn't have worked. We actually had to align the nature of engagement and interaction with the resource, which was a gallery or a directory of professional female engineers that our middle schoolers could relate to. So that to me, that's a great example.
I think we've set up the problem. We've defined what gravity is. Let's turn the corner a little bit. So let's say you're at the ASE annual conference, an association executive walks up to the booth and says, well, we've already got a community, right? But ... How do you point an association leader into the right direction to identifying a gravitational center?
Great question. So it's really simple. As an executive at an association, you have to ask yourself one basic question. What is it that we offer? What is it that we deliver to members that they can't get anywhere else? What is that core thing that you offer that members depend on and really can't get anywhere else? And that's your center of gravity. It's going to vary, right? For some associations, it's going to be, some kind of a collection of reports, right? For another association, it could be related to learning. For another association, it might actually be related to advocacy, right? Government affairs, legislative affairs, regulatory affairs. For another association, it could be a buyer's guide. Don't just build a community around a buyer's guide. Don't just it's not one solution for every association, right? You've got to really look and say, what is it that we do? What is it that we offer that our members can't live without? And then start to think about, how do we build conversations around that? And I'll take it a step further. Why this is so important, right? I'm trying to solve a problem at work. And if I find the tool or the resource that I need to solve the problem, that's not the end of the journey. It's the beginning. I need to find someone then who has experience applying it, that I can speak with, that I can talk to. And maybe I could have that conversation online. Maybe that conversation is outside somewhere, an email, or it's a phone call. But I need to find someone to help me apply that, interpret it, to my situation, right? So why do people join associations? Well, when they go to the conference, they often cite one of the reasons for renewing is because I went to the conference and I met so many great people, so many, I learned so many things from so many people. Some of it's the sessions, but a lot of it's the hallway conversations that happen after the sessions, because I found somebody who has some experience with something I'm trying to solve. And they were able to take that resource that I learned about in the session, and we can talk about it. And they help me figure out how to apply that resource to my scenario, to my challenge, right? So um, the association, it's not enough just to put that knowledge base up there or to put that buyer's guide up there. If you aren't offering a pathway to a person who's already been there before and knows something about that challenge, then you're not doing what you're actually doing in the real world when you have a conference. The associations do this really well when they host a conference, but they don't do it very well on their websites, right? Again, community off to the side somewhere, the pile of resources that people need or the tools that they need here, totally disconnected. This is something we see over and over again.
For sure. So the old adage is, if you build it, they will come. That isn't necessarily true.
No, not at all, right? Because like most of the time, what we see are people are building the equivalent of the lounge way over in the other corner of the room with a sign that says, talk here, get answers here, as opposed to building it where they're already going.
I want to try, kind of bring this in for the landing here and turn the final corner. Well, how do we know if we're doing it right? So I just talked with another association executive today, actually, one of our clients who has taken this and run with it and done very well with it. And when they go into the boardroom, they're showing them metrics like website traffic and things like this. But is website traffic and Google Analytics and how much time people spend on this site, is that really what we should be measuring, or how do we know we've done the right thing?
I think that the way associations have been taught to measure success in places like their communities, it's based on, the laws that govern success in what I would call personal social, right? When I'm on Twitter, am I there on my professional time or am I there on my personal time? In my personal time, it's disposable time, right? We all don't have enough time, but when I'm not working, it's time that I can burn. And so the longer we keep you on that site, the more we have you looking at a particular page, the better. It's different in the professional world. In the professional world, I have 10 things to do and I have time to get 5 of them done. There's a scarcity, right? There's a real scarcity of time connected to my paycheck. And as a result, I am what we need to do when we provide a community, what we need to do when we provide some sort of a resource, whether it's a buyer's guide or a knowledge base or a job board, right? When we provide that, we need to make sure that we are designing it so that that member can get in and get out as quickly as possible. So our metrics are kind of flipped on their head. We want a high bounce rate. We want short time on pages. We want, people to click, through as few pages as possible, right? In other words, we don't really want it to be sticky. We want it to be useful. We want it to be valuable. We want it to be so efficient that whenever I have a problem that I need to solve, the first place I think of going to get the answers that I need to solve the problem, or to find the people that can help me do it, or to connect with the vendors or the suppliers that can solve it, is my association. And I shouldn't be thinking my association community. I should just be thinking my association. And when I get there, I mow through that visit as quickly as possible. I get what I need. I connect with a person and I'm out there solving my problem and getting on to the next one. And maybe instead of 5 things today, I can get 6 or 7 done. But we're dealing with a scarcity of time. And so we need to measure it differently. Now, The way that we measure it, and we've talked about this, is in terms of the overall success of the association. Are people joining? Are they renewing? Are they getting certified? Are they attending the conferences? Are they attending webinars? Are they
Sponsorship dollars going up?
Are sponsorship dollars going up? Right? Yeah, we want to look at our analytics and we want to see that there's traffic. We want to see that people are coming in and using these resources and connecting with each other. But we're putting way too much emphasis on how long they're there, and how often they're coming, how much time they're spending. We should be looking at the other, essentially all of those indicators of association health that an association CEO cares about. Those are the indicators that we're doing a good job on community, both in person and virtually.
Absolutely. It seems counterintuitive, but it seems to make sense when you really split the personal versus professional time. Totally makes sense.
Yeah.
So we've covered a lot. That's a lot, and I think this is a really good foundation for some of the other principles and principles of success for communities and buyer's guides and hubs out there. What I took away today, Derek, is communities form where there's a purpose, right? I think purpose, gravity, mission, right? I mean, as someone who is an association executive, I've managed associations. We all have a mission, we have strategic plan, and we have strategic outcomes that we're trying to fulfill. Having the outcomes and the mission at the core of your community or your hub certainly does resonate, and hopefully does resonate with our
Absolutely.
friends out there. So if your platform doesn't give something they need, it doesn't matter how much you promote it. They won't come, as we say.
That's right.
Fantastic.
Exactly.
What sort of final thought do you have?
My final thought is just simply that if you're an association executive, strategically, what is your center of gravity? What is it that we do better than anyone else? And why are we not infusing community in that? How do we do that? And how do we get our entire team engaged in that process?
I love it. Great job, Derek. Thanks so much. If you made it this far, thank you. We are Diamex, and we put together something called Milieu, MILIEU, and we take a little bit of a different stance on building community and building buyer's guides. And so if you want to talk about it and our approach and how they're different, head over to Diamex.com. We've actually have a ton of great blog articles. We're putting a lot of videos there like this as well. So go check us out and hopefully build a little bit of gravity there as well.
I like the sound of that.
Thanks, Derek. Take care. Take care, everybody.
Yeah.
Bye.
Bye.